Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Honch, your commissioner of the Roost Low Tier Draft League. I am not alone. I am with fellow moderator Rosary God
Hey guys, how's it going?
and a very good friend of mine who was a season 3 veteran. And unfortunately, he's not playing with us this season, but very big shout out to Primal Rush.
Yo, what's good, guys?
Right, and we are going to be bringing you a very late, I'm sorry, Roost Black Glasses Season 4 Power Rankings. So, we have not had much time to do things for the past few weeks as a mod
Yeah.
team. So, it's been very crunched and things have been rushed, not very professional. So, we do apologize for that. But we're going to make it happen. I promise you, we're going to make it happen. Hence why this is going to be coming out. So, I guess without further ado, we will start at number 12 with David Ryan's team, Dynamo Bucharest. One thing that really jumps out to us, first thing right off the bat, is it's ludicrously jumbled. There are bits and pieces of a good team here, but I don't think that anyone could surmise that it works and fits cohesively as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
Hazards
it's
are
got
pretty good.
very
Like it's got
yeah, like,
Sanaconda, Diancie, and Empoleon for rocks. Oh, that's really it.
yeah.
It's just
Um,
something
it's very
about it.
awkward.
Yeah.
I think it has to do a lot with it. Yes, it has some decent like Sceptile being its fastest mon, not bad. But when it jumps from that to 117 in Salazzle and then 90 with Moltres, and then it just kind of dives off from there.
I think
It's just nothing really stays cohesive. There's not really a linear drop in speed. It kind of just it's just up and down.
it drops from 95 to Gallade to Honchkrow, and that those are like the Salazzle to Moltres is enormous in terms of a speed gap.
Yeah, well, same with Salazzle to Sceptile. I
Uh,
argue that's
in low tier, it's not as bad just because Sceptile is going to be
right,
outspeeding 90% of the Mons anyway.
right.
So I don't think it's going to be that big a detriment. But the team just
I think
feels
that
very all
the
over.
thing that kind of throws me off about this team, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, is it's super rocks weak.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
there's a good amount of mons on this team that are pretty weak to rocks, and whenever one of your well, to be honest with you, two of your hazard removal options on this team, because I think Honchkroger's defog is weak to rocks.
Dang right he does.
If Yeah. It's not really a
yeah,
good thing, because that means you're relying on Empoleon to be that main defogger, which it does really well, especially in low tier. In regular draft, it does well, but especially in low tier, I would think you would want to have that flexibility there. I kind of just I don't like the double fire type, in my opinion. I don't like
Yes.
the double
yeah.
fire type. I
Double.
think I think Salazzle is fine. I think if you let go of Moltres and maybe kind of got another defogger or something like that, that was maybe a little bit better, um, in my opinion, then I think it'll be fine.
I'm also seeing like
Hmm.
a like water plus ice. This team has a very hard time switching into that, other than
Yeah,
Empoleon. And
yeah.
Empoleon
Yeah,
That's really
doesn't
the only
really want to
switching.
eat a Scald because it doesn't have any reliable recovery. Doesn't have any recovery actually.
please give Empoleon
Oh
Roost.
my
It
god,
would
give
make
it
it
Roost.
so much better.
Oh, give it
It
Roost
would
and
make
Flip
it
Yeah,
Turn.
so
Just
much better.
Roost and Flip Turn. That's all it needs. That's all it needs. Oh my
that'd be great.
god.
Yeah. And I don't think we're gonna. No one's acknowledged it yet, but I'm gonna acknowledge it right now. Cosmog is kind of out of place here. All it does is click teleport. That's
I'm
all it
gonna be
does.
honest. It's probably
Doesn't.
the most powerful member on his team.
Oh shit, you're
No,
right.
he
Bro,
doesn't have any
hey,
other legendaries. Moltres isn't a legendary, dude.
hey, check me out. Teleport into Sceptile. That's a new wave.
Honestly,
That's a
dude.
new wave.
Honestly.
That's a
But
new wave.
see, I don't like that though because your opponent is always going to know, okay, Cosmog is in. All that's going to do is click teleport. So I can here
You never
safely
know.
set up.
Banded Splash, though. Banded
Uh,
Splash, though. That's all I'm gonna
I
say.
just a mon I could see just coming out right and just kind of doing work to this team. It just shouted out to me just right now is if there's a I don't know if Dawn fan is allowed. Dawn
Yep.
fan is probably allowed, right?
Yep. Don't
So if there's a
Yeah.
Dawn fan on this team or against this team with like obviously like an EQ against Rock Blast, so like it could beat Sub Salazzle, and then like Ice Shard, that does crazy amounts of work to this team. Crazy
Yeah.
amounts of work to this team.
Dawn fan ruins it.
We will say
I guess
a lot of these teams going forward are kind of Edgequake weak, but I mean,
Edgequake is just really, really good. It's like Bolt Beam. It's just a physical version of Bolt Beam.
yep.
yeah.
So
It's kind of it's frustrating because like it has, like you said earlier, it has some good bits and pieces of a good team, like Salazzle, Sandaconda, good mons, Empoleon's a good, like it has a bunch of good mons, but they don't really mesh together all that well.
no.
There's nothing. There's a couple of double type, like there's 2 fire types, 2 flying types. There's nothing really that covers effectively
Doesn't really
for that.
excuse it. But
Honestly, yeah. Honestly, I think if like I don't think it's. I think there's good bits and pieces, but I don't. I think it's pretty. It's not. It's not that hard to fix it.
no.
You know what I mean? Like with transactions and everything, it's not that hard to fix it. I don't even know if they want to fix it. And trust me, like I'm the last person that you want to hear pooping on other people's teams. But
He's not
look,
even in this season or a bot.
I'm not even in. I'm not even in this season,
Yeah,
dog. If you saw
man
my
has
team from last season,
absolutely no comments.
if you saw my team from last season, it was basically all right, cool. Get hair across. It was Adamant Flame Warm hair across, and just see how many kills we could get that week.
Pretty
That
much.
was basically my team.
I mean,
But
that's fair. It's a pretty common.
that
That's pretty fair.
that's why you run that Flame Warm Adamant.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if you let go of Moltres and you kind of get 2 or 3 other mons that can kind of fill that niche in free agency, I think this team could be a lot better.
Yeah.
Because I think you want another defogger, I would say, and then also I think you would like another pivot
You want a defogger that's not
Mhm.
weak to rocks, and you want
or even a rapid spinner, or even a rapid spinner
something
would
like
do
that.
really
Yeah,
well here.
get a low tier rapid spinner.
Some form of removal. Like honestly, swap Sandaconda for Claydol. Like that'd be a good trade right off the bat.
That's honestly not that.
Uh,
That's
yeah,
it's not
too
terrible.
bad.
It's not
That
terrible.
gives you slow teleport and rocks and spin. Not too bad. Anyway,
Yeah, but then that gives triple psychic then. So
triple psychic. To double
With
with Gallade.
Cosmog and Gallade.
Oh well, whatever. Anyway, moving on to the
yeah,
next team, we got Jeremy and the San Antonio Squirtle Squad. The
Say
main gripe,
Toxtricity, I love it.
I
Toxtricity, I love it.
except that thing's gonna be running Scarf every single week because this team does not have a single mon that's over base 100, and
Mhm.
it's Glalie.
Oh, Glalie. Make
It's
it Glalie.
Glalie is
Yes.
100.
Yeah. It's
Mega Glalie, like it's a good team. Like in terms, it has good, like with the last team, it has bits and pieces of a good team. It doesn't mesh pretty much at all.
defensive core is gross. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's absolutely atrocious. I mean, Dawn Fan, Vap, P2, and Chestnut. That's probably one of the best
It's
defensive
very
cores.
very physically bulky. You can run
Plus
Assault Vest or
Vaporeon.
Eladon with Vaporeon, but
Mm-hmm.
the big problem that we have with this team is it's very very reliant on Toxtricity breaking holes, which it can do, and it can do very well, but
Yeah.
it's going to be fairly easy to prep for because it's either going to be running
Mhm.
shift gear or scarf most of the time.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
100% fair.
I think this team uh nicer with a possible sticky Weber. I think if they were
Mhm.
going this route, I think Webs with Toxtricity, because you guys don't know, but the 2 times that I've used Toxtricity, I've always drafted Rabambi. I think that pairing goes super super well
Oh yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Because it gives Toxtricity that that menacing, like okay, they could set up webs and whatnot. So I think just webs in general would be really really nice for this team. But then also it's kind of interesting too because with that bulky of a core, like you said with P2, Chestnut, and Vaporeon, and even Donphan to an extent, I think you can run some of these mons a little bit more offensively. Like I think Donphan with this team can be run more offensively as like an offensive spinner of some kind.
Yeah.
got
That's fair.
webs. I could kind of see Belly Drum Chestnut doing some funky things.
I do too.
But I feel like to really capitalize on it, it needs like some other offensive mon. And like Duraludon's cool, but another thing that we were talking about with this team is it's like it looks like it wants to run Trick Room, but it's not slow enough to take advantage of it. We're also talking that it would like to deal with Tailwind from Comfey, but again,
Yeah.
it's not fast enough to do that effectively.
There's a lot of middling speed tiers, I would say, that that's around, because you have like a 70, you have like, I think you have 275s, a 65. Not sure what Chestnut is. I think Duraludon is like 85.
Yeah.
Donphan and P2 I think are like 50.
Yeah, they're
So
both
like
yeah.
slow.
so like definitely there's a lot of middling and doubling up on speed tiers.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Comfey's a
like y'all said,
priority.
like y'all said, the team is nice. It just needs a little fixing, in my opinion. Just needs a tad bit of fixing.
Yeah, it needs some other form of offense that's not just Toxtricity every week, clicking Overdrive or Boom Burst.
This reminds me a lot of like not talking about like core wise and offensively, but just speed wise. It reminds me a lot of Cumos' team from last season.
Yeah, I kind of agree to that.
Mhm.
Anything
Yeah.
else, or are we good to move on?
No, I mean it's
Good.
not a bad team. It
Oh,
needs a little bit more.
another thing with this is like a lot of these teams are really hard to rank just because like we have some really good teams this season. Like
Yeah, there's some
I
really good
get
teams.
that it's top div, but like still, they're really good teams, and I'm really happy with a lot of the way that these teams turned out. Although we kind of seem like we're roasting them, like it's really hard to ignore. Like these are some really good teams. All right.
Right. I mean, like for the most part, there's not really like an atrociously terrible team. It's just for the most part we're splitting hairs, and that's with these lower couple teams. That's going to be a lot of what we're doing.
Whenever
Yep.
you have to rank, you have to rank. Like it's just that
Exactly.
simple.
Yep. And
All right.
number 10, we got Zane Goose with the Baltimore Glycorials. I'm sorry to do this to you, Zane, but your team's clicking Trick Room, and that's it.
Dog, my boy got a Mighty on the team. It's time.
Yes,
It's
sir.
time, bro. That's his dark type with
Young
Crawdon.
boy
It's time.
Might.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
who was it? Was it last season or season 2 where someone just like went in with Mightyena?
I don't remember. I know
You know,
Mediana did something good.
Mightyena. I think it was last season. I want to
It
say
might
it was.
Scarf
Oh,
Moxie Mightyena is a fiend.
yeah, it's base 70 speed.
Yeah,
Which
No,
that's the
is
only
not.
problem.
That's
yeah.
kind of a problem.
Then
And
I'm like,
there's no Weber. There's no
well,
like.
Webs, because like this team wouldn't really. It could take
I got
advantage of it with Carodon and Ampharos, but at the same time, like I feel like he just wants to be clicking Trick Room with Globro,
Florges, Slowbro,
Rune.
Runerigus.
Like,
I think
don't get me
this
wrong. I think the wall breaking on this team is the best in the divisions in
Oh,
fly
it's
classes.
nutty.
Just
Oh, it's
because like
It's
nutty.
up there.
Crawdon
It's
has no
it's
switch
nutty.
ins. You cannot convince me that this thing has switch ins. Mega Amp has 165 or 160 special attack.
Yeah.
Ow.
Even you can run
Yeah.
agility Mega Amp, which
Yep.
Yeah,
agility
dude,
Mega Amp
Agility
is
Mega
still
F is great.
Mhm.
nasty too.
And
And
then
then
this.
also there's a good amount of SD mons with Virizion and Talonflame.
Yep.
And Zangoose over there vibing in the corner.
Yeah.
Priority on this team is disgusting.
It's not. Wait, huh?
Aqua Jet, Quick Attack.
Aqua Jet,
Uh,
Quick Attack, and then you also have priority with Gale Wings
yeah, I was about to say
If
whenever
Gale.
you have full HP.
yeah. Team's
Not a
okay.
bad
It's
team.
just like you're. It's kind of easy to see in prep what this team wants to do, and if it does, I feel like if it doesn't get that thing off, it doesn't perform as well as you would like it to. Although Zane has been one to surprise, so I really hope he does.
Yeah.
I think a thing I like about this team as well is that Aurora's considered Auroraville.
True, but then that would
Yeah.
mean hail, and nothing on this team really appreciates getting chipped more than it already does.
That and there's
That's true.
also we didn't catch this before. It's like a decent fighting. Like he's got enough to cover a fighting weakness because he's got the Slowbro, he's got the Talonflame. He can kind of cover the
And
fighting
Rune.
type weakness. And
And
Rune.
also Florges.
Well, most fighting types are physical, and
It could
floor
run
just has
Fizdev.
base 65 phys. It's not terrible. Like it's not a terrible physical switching, but it's definitely not nearly as good as it is when it's specially defensive. Um,
I don't know. I feel like this
and
is.
fighting
It's,
fighting types are going to be a little bit of an issue for this team if fantasy not fantasy Zane if he can't figure out a way to work around it.
I don't think it's really fighting types they have to worry about. More so, like they're switching to ground types of Virizion and Talonflame. The
Mm-hmm.
rest
That's an
are
issue.
just not that great. I mean, Crawdon kills all of them, but that's assuming Crawdon can get a hit off before it gets bopped.
Cardon can always revenge. Yeah, I think well, obviously, fire type of coverage is one of the scariest things in Mons in general.
Yeah.
Like a fire type of coverage is one of the scariest things.
Yes.
Oh
But I do think that ground type weakness is really prevalent for this team.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He does have the tools to deal with it. He's got Crawdon that just smacks all of them. He's got Aurorus that can come in and deal with them. He's got Virizion that can switch in and kind of just sit in front of them, and they can't do much unless they want to click the Aerial Ace looking at Gligar over there.
Yeah.
But
And then again, we're not saying that your team is like hella ground weak because we see that you only have like
yeah,
3 Mons that are weak to ground. We're just saying that it's hard to switch into
it's
Yeah.
difficult to
is
switch
what the main thing.
into, and a lot of the mines that are like neutral to it don't really want to take a strong Earthquake.
And with
Right.
Earthquake being such a common move on a
It
lot
is.
of these Mons, it's just really hard because usually that Earthquake is coming with some sort of coverage.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, like it's not bad, but it's just kind of slow, and I feel like if they don't, get to pull their trigger, they will get,
Mollywog.
yeah. All right. Moving on to the next team, we have your boys team. I don't really want to speak much to it just because I would have a lot of bias towards it.
You
Also,
have
a
this one
little,
again?
I do, dude, it's so good. Also,
God.
one thing that we're going to be saying is we're doing this based off of teams for week 2, just because week 1 and prior to week 1 we've been ludicrously busy.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you see here is based off of what we have for week 2. So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I should have said that at the start, but professionalism,
Yes, sir. All
professionalism.
the profession, of course.
Anyway, you guys
Um.
want to take it away? Roast me,
Yeah.
roast me,
You
destroy
want the
me.
good or the bad first?
Oh,
Destroy me.
just okay. Well, Honch is the coach, so that already puts his team in the bottom.
All right, you know what?
Nah.
Yeah, tell that to the playoffs contender last season, man. Jesus.
I'm sorry. Do I hear gloating?
I'm sorry. Do you hear
Sorry.
good player?
What? Do I hear bottom
Ooh.
4 in the division right now?
Yeah,
Ooh.
okay. Anyway.
Nah. Like it's not a bad team. It's just special ice types. Special attacks really hurt this team.
I was gonna
And
say the same thing, like
I,
freeze dry.
yeah,
Freeze
freeze
dry
dry really hurts.
obliterates his team.
Yeah. It's got some good bits to it. Like there's pretty good hazard setters. It's got a great cleric. Autono is one of the best low tier clerics out there. It's so
The
good.
best, honestly.
It's top 3 or top 5 in terms of it's really good. It can do a lot of things with this coverage. It's got really good speed tiers. It doesn't have like an astronomical jump like what was it, the Dynamo Bucharest from earlier. It's got for the most part it's pretty linear in its speed drop.
I mean, honestly, it's Noivern 123.
3.
Yeah, 123. To Zubstrika 116, the Lycanroc 110, and then Shaman 100, and then Crook at 92 down to
There's a big
Toxicroak.
92.
there's a big jump. I would say there's a big like gap though between Toxicroak and Mawile.
Yup.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like
There's
a
a
30
nice
point, that's like a 30 plus
35
point speed. Yeah. I would say
Um,
that's pretty. And then also I would just say as well is that this season you're gonna be relying a lot on Noivern and Toxicroak as your fighting type switch-ins because
Yeah, big time.
your fire type switch-ins are not the best. So I could see like a max HP defog Noivern coming a lot
Yeah.
to
yeah.
games.
Oh yeah. And a lot of things that are gonna be in this season, like Rodon from Zane's team, can run
Mhm.
Adamant, and you don't love that. Like you have some switch-ins to it, don't get me like Gastrodon is right there.
I don't want to take a crunch. Don't say Crawdon's name around me. Actually, no. I
Crawdon.
have Toxicroak. I'm not too worried about it.
Doesn't it get like
Even like a
Psycho
Specs
Punch?
Glaceon. Specs
Yep.
Glaceon can go in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
Spexion can go in. All around though, it's not a bad team by any means. It's just
We're gonna
it
say
doesn't
that a
have
lot,
a
huh?
very not a, it doesn't really have like that good of a special types attack switch in. Like overall, special attacks really hurt this team. Um, and it's just the ice type resist is non-existent realistically outside of like Fortress and Mawile. And if it's something like the Auroras from earlier or maybe a Cryogonal or something like that, it's gonna hurt.
One thing I will say about this team that do kind of I do kind of enjoy, Hans, is that your two ground types are really, really protected. Like your two
Yes.
ground types are super duper protected. I mean, grass, you have a million grass resist, and even like a sap Sippermon. And to water types, uh, I mean, you have dry skin Toxicroak, you have Shaman,
Storm
you have
Drain. Yep.
Storm Drain, Gastro, and
Sceptile.
also you have Substriker to go against those water types. So it's like, so it's not terrible that you covered those ground types. I think if you just covered up that ice weakness a little bit better, because Fortress does resist, and so does Mawile, but they're more on the physically defensive side of things. I think if you got maybe some sort of especially defensive mon in that retrospect, I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely thinking of making some transactions just to help to iron out those kinks in the team. But
Yeah, definitely. Not a
it's
bad
Overall, I
team.
like the team. I love the
Yeah,
team.
it's a good team. It's just it needs like a lot of these lower tier teams. It needs a little something extra, and I think you've already figured out what that is. So
yeah. Yep, yep,
And
yep.
look, guys, just understand if we could shit on if we could crap on the owner of the league, trust me,
I can take it. I can
you
take
can take it.
it.
Y'all
oh,
better take
dude,
these two.
Oh jeez. Oh no. All right.
yeah.
Moving on to the
Let's
next one.
let's move on to the next team. Yeah, definitely.
Next up is Auckland Licky Pies with probably the most worrisome logo I've ever seen. Um,
It's the grossest logo ever. It's just
it's something. Okay. One of the main
it's
things
a
that like we were talking about with this team is again that edgequake weakness.
mhm,
I does not have a switch into both.
exactly.
Swampert,
Um,
Swampert would be
Swampert,
the only one.
That's like yeah, that's what
even then, it's
words.
just kind of
Swamp, yeah,
it gets chipped
Swampert.
fairly easily and is very reliant on its leftovers. Although it does get
Exactly
Mega Autono's wishes, so it's not terrible.
right. Um, and this team has really good hazard setting. I love the Pincurchin, Cop, and Swampert to just kind of carry all the hazards. Realistically, though, the only remover on this team is the Serena, because Swellow does not count.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
whether you bring a specs or flame ward. And mostly
exactly.
most of the time it's specs.
And realistically, if you're going to bring a utility move, you're going to bring defog. That's usually what it's going to end up being.
Yeah.
The momentum on this team is amazing. I love the teleport, flip turn, multiple U-turners. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it's got
Um,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forms of pivot. Swallow, Primate, Serena all have U-turn, flip turn from Swampert, and teleport, Magmortar, and Glowking.
Slowking.
I don't think
Yeah.
that Slowking can get teleport.
Yeah, it can. Yep.
I know
Doesn't it?
regular can. I don't remember if, but it doesn't
No,
matter.
regular
I
can
Regardless.
think
as well.
I think the I think no, I think the regular can. I don't think
Oh,
the Gala versions can.
are you
I
sure?
can look it up. I can look it up right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I mean, even without that, like, I still think that this,
because they usually run like AV or something like that. They usually run AV offensive.
yeah,
Galar
that's true, that's true.
Galar Slowking does not get
Never mind
teleport.
then.
Yeah.
Still really good pivoting options. As
Yeah,
well as like a
Oh,
so good.
small,
100%.
as well as like a small regen core. Because if he just wants to switch around with Audino before Mega Evolving and staying in, I think that could be fun to do. to just like soak up hits and stall out with
Mhm.
toxic or whatever.
Exactly.
I love the Swallow, Magmortar, Caparaja offensive core though.
I,
I
I'll
love that.
I'll be honest, I'm not really loving it just because like I feel like this team wants a different steel type. Just because Caparaja is not as bulky as we would want it to be, criminally so.
Necessarily for this team though, I don't think your steel type needs to be that bulky because
I
you have
guess
slow because you have slow King Galar, you have Mega Autono, you have Pert. So I feel like you can use Caparaja in a more offensive role than at that point.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
all around it's a good team. Um, Definitely, it's just the lackluster removal is kind of what does it.
Yeah,
A lot of
Um,
things are gonna have to run boots.
yeah,
yeah. I think this team is I think one hazard. I don't think that rocks necessarily would be bad. I think spikes is going to kill this team.
Yes.
yeah,
11,
definitely.
11 like 10 or how many mons are being able to draft? You're able to draft 11. So
Yep.
like
11.
nine out of the 11 mons are spike weak or not or are going to be grounded. So they're going to be affected by spike. So Serena's going to be like heavy duty boots almost every week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which really hurts this team. That basically 90% of the mons are gonna have boots.
Either boots or just gonna have to eat the spikes, which makes this team that already kind of lacks with reliable recovery because Serena doesn't get it, Swampert doesn't get it. Audino has to patch wishes to itself, which is in and of itself kind of risky.
Mhm.
So it's like if the team had reliable recovery, it wouldn't be as bad, but it just kind of sucks to be like solely reliant on Mega Audino wishes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Overall,
Um,
though, it's definitely one of the better lower teams, obviously, because we put it here.
yeah,
But yeah.
Yeah.
All right, ready to move on to the next one?
yeah, I
Mhm.
am.
All right.
I go.
Next up is Dorinia's team, New England Evolution. Uh, one of the biggest things on this team, really slow, really slow. Um,
Mhm.
Trick Room option is Ryun, and that's Trick Room or with Ryun and Kekleon. Yes.
Yeah.
Does
And
Both.
Driftbun
there's
get it? Does Driftbun get
Drift
it?
Glim, I don't think so.
No,
But
Drift Room does not get it.
regardless, a team being slow is not the worst thing in the world if it's got, if most of the mons have reliable recovery, if it's got a good wish passer. Like,
This
it's
team
not
has
that
neither.
bad. Exactly. This team has neither of those things. Doesn't have any wish passers, and I think the only mon that gets reliable recovery is Reuniclus and Kekleon. That's it. Everything
Yeah,
else doesn't.
Reuniclus, Kecleon, and then like if you want to bring it to an extent, like Weezing gets Pain Split, and I think Driftblim gets Strength Sap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
That would be the extent.
I do rate the Cloyster pick here with the terrain pulse from Weezing, as
Oh yeah.
well as the Trick Room support from Ryun. Like I think that's a really cool pick. I really hope that Durinia can make that work because I'd love to see that. That'd be really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Clawitzer is one of my favorites.
I would enjoy that a lot because like I'm not gonna lie to you, the core of Reuniclus, Rhyperior, Clawitzer is just gonna punch a hole through a lot of these teams with Trick Room, and then also you want to sprinkle in there Mienshao too is gonna be amazing. Zoroark is the interesting mon on this team, I think, in my opinion.
it's always the interesting mon, but I don't think it's got many mons that it can really punish for guessing wrong.
I
Because like
think maybe could you maybe pose it as like Wheezing or something like that, or pose it as Clawitzer because that's the closest movesets I could see to being kind of similar to Zoroark.
no, it doesn't even have to be that. It just has to be like a. It doesn't force anything in. There aren't many mons that force things in other than like Lead Mian Shao would force in like a bulky psychic and then Zorak just clicks Dark Pulse. So that I can
Yeah.
see that. But it's kind of I don't know. It has potential, but I don't think that it could be as exploited necessarily. So as long as it's not like the main focus and just kind of like a thing where people have to be like, oh, they this might be Zorak. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's
Um,
cool concept.
yeah, cool concept. It's a pretty decent team. It's just if it had some better reliable recovery or better cleric support, I think it'd be higher on this list. But because it doesn't really have either of those things, that's kind of why we're putting.
See, I'd say if this thing had like a better special wall and a wish passer, this would have the best, arguably the best defensive core in the league.
Yeah, like if you
Double Eight
swapped
is
out,
the most physically bulky mon in the game. I think.
yeah,
I think it is with EV-Elite.
it's up there. Um,
Weezing is also just very obnoxious and can just sit on everything.
yeah,
Druddigan is a fat, rocky helmet, rough skin with rocks.
yeah.
And then
I mean,
Rotom can pivot
uh,
between them.
Kecleon is very specially bulky. It's got base 120 SPDF, and I think it's like base 70 HP, something like that. So it's not anything great. It's not anything to write home about, but that's definitely the special wall of this team.
Yep.
Um,
One thing that we should also say is like he can't activate Drifloon's Unburden because that has been banned from it
yeah,
because tiering issue. So it can't really do that if you wanted to do the Misty or Misty Seed on that. So
right.
sorry, that was our bad. Um,
Not, anyways. Like it's not a bad team. It's just there's a couple of issues that are super glaring with the lack of speed.
yes,
Um, if this team was faster, the issues that it has wouldn't be as bad, or if it fixed those issues, the speed wouldn't be that bad. But because it's got all of the above, it's
I
it's there.
I'm looking at this now. I also see 0 switch-ins to a strong ice beam,
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, like
other than Assault Vest
Kind of
Kecleon.
Mienshao kind of can, but
I
yeah.
don't know.
Or even like an Assault Vest Claw can really switch into ice types.
I will say
Which
that
Even if
it's
that is possible to do because they could run like a U-turn, flip turn set or something like that.
yeah.
and it can run Aura Sphere, and it just takes down those ice types.
One thing I will say that's kind of glaring to me as well is, um, if you don't bring Kecleon a week, then your team is really really weak to Ghost
Mhm.
or
Mm,
just straight up Dark in general.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think
Um,
in
I
I
wouldn't.
think like if a strong Ghost type were to come in, like for instance, like a Haunter, especially with how slow this team is, Haunter is a real problem
yeah, definitely agree with
for
that.
this team
Uh,
because obviously you'll bring Zoroark or you'll bring Kecleon for that, but just saying if one of those things goes down, then it's going to be a really tough time. It's going to be a really tough time.
No. Overall, though, like me and Xiao, one of the strongest physical wall breakers available in low tier. With I think his high jump kick. Like if you run banded max tag adamant, stronger than Mega Medichams. And he probably took one of the best sponges for it in Reuniclus. So it's
yeah, and
that thing's gonna be
Reuniclus,
a freaking force.
Reuniclus and Weezing.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's
And even the Blade as well, really good fighting type
yeah.
switch in.
Yep. So
Um,
it's that thing's gonna be a force and it's gonna be obnoxious to play around.
yeah.
Good
I
team though.
think,
Very good team.
yeah, definitely a good team. But I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yep.
All right.
All right,
Next up,
we got
we have
uh,
the Copenhagen Galads, Gentleman Thomas.
yes,
Let's
the
Um,
go.
boys.
at
My boy got
first,
the hair cross.
I know. At first
Got the hair
glance,
cross.
this team just looks kind of awkward, but if you dig a little bit deeper, it has every single hazard. Its speed is really good.
Yep,
Um, it has plenty of pivot options,
yep,
but it just kind of falls short compared to the other teams, I'd say.
yeah.
Like
Um,
the
it's
offensive
like,
prowess between Nasty Plot Tornai and Guts Heracross is ludicrous.
oh
Like
yes, of course.
the things
I think
that
having a better steal might have helped this team.
yeah, like if you invest in like a better steal, I know I was talking to Thomas about that. Um, I think this team would be a lot better just because I don't know about you
Mhm.
guys, but his flying switch in is Matang. Granted, he did take the best flying type in format, but still,
Right.
one
Yeah.
it's yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, it's the strongest flying type in the format, but I mean, only is the strongest type in the format 70% of the time because you
Yep.
got to hit hurricanes.
Oh
So
yes.
that's a thing. But at the same time, yeah, Matang is your only flying type switching, which makes it kind of rough because you don't want Helios to go ahead and take those hits.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And
Helios really
then
just wants to come in, click Volt Switch, or
yeah, I'm thinking just Brave Bird week.
yeah,
Like just straight up just like Scarf Brave Bird or just Banded
Well,
Brave Bird.
for that specific issue, Hippowdon would be like the decent switch in because of the fact that it's very physically bulky with reliable recovery, and
Yeah.
it can touch those flying types of Stone Edge.
it's yeah. I mean, he has options,
He has
but
options. He
A
has
really good.
options, but
it just
but
kind of
could he
forces him into awkward situations that people can capitalize on.
I think it could force him into awkward situations in prep as well because it's like, okay, do I run Stone Edge? Because looking at his team outside of Matang, Hippowdon's his only rocker outside of Matang. So it's like if Matang doesn't have a good matchup, I bring a Hippowdon and I want rocks on a Hippowdon. So I run like Earthquake. I run Earthquake Stealth Rock, Slack Off for recovery. And then what do I run for the fourth move? Do I run Edge? Do I run Slide? Do I run Toxic? Yawn? Those are the type of decisions that you kind of got to make in prep. That's going to make it rough to deal with.
Especially if he goes
Yeah.
wrong. But outside of that, I mean, honestly, parting shot. One big thing is like parting shot Persian into either one of his offensive threats is disgustingly nasty. Especially like
Oh yes.
one of the big sleeper threats on this team is Slurpuff because it's a Swiss Army knife on this team. I think
Oh
because
yeah.
it can run the classic belly drum set and do well because his team supports it pretty well with Heracross like surgically removing the steals. Um, Same thing with Howden, just sitting in front of the steals and killing them with Earthquake, as well
Talk
as
about Reboot.
that's it.
Reboot.
Yeah, yeah. But yes,
Reboot
but
about to
yeah,
be bodying that team.
does have Libero, so it's not bad.
I
But
also think Rattle Persian Alola is really, really good as well. Like
it's
if you ever it's not too bad either because I've seen it run a couple of times in actual draft league and it's sweet teams. So
oh yeah,
Fair.
it's also cool because Slurpuff could also it's not forced into that role, but it can also be a bulkier cleric with wish passing, and it can also be a decent sash lead if he really wants it with webs and unburden endeavor shenanigans. So this thing, Slurpuff, I really like on his team just because like it can fit a variety of roles and his team can capitalize on all of them.
mhm.
So it's a very good pick for his team. Fits very well.
Shout out to you, Thomas.
Yeah, shout
You
out to
got hair
Thomas.
across. You got
Yeah.
hair across.
Honestly,
It,
and he's since most of us have been very busy over the last few weeks, he's been carrying a lot of the load. So good
yes,
on Mr. Thomas.
yeah. Shout out to Thomas. Honestly, thank you, buddy.
Good boy. Yeah,
Um,
definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel.
oh
100%.
yes,
Makes
gentleman
great
Thomas.
content.
We'll probably link him in the description below. We'll probably also link Primal's Twitch if you want to check
Yes,
him out.
sir.
Um,
Check out the YouTube too. We'll be
yes,
uploading there soon.
you'll link him. But one other point to this team is it has one decent remover in Tentacruel because Tornadus really doesn't want to run Defog because if it's running Defog, something has gone wrong.
Hmm.
Because
It's not a
otherwise,
bad
this
defogger, but
it just it would rather do anything else.
yeah, like if it's forced into defogging, it does it well. That's fine. Like Boots defog is perfectly fine, but it's not going to want to do that every week. It's going to want to do that like maybe once or twice, like for the most part.
Cool's
Um,
gonna be carrying Rapid Spin like every week.
Yup. Yup.
Yeah, and Tentacruel's going to be carrying Rocket Spin every week, which is perfectly fine, honestly. Tentacruel is probably going to run it no matter what. So
Tentacruel's probably
uh,
gonna be utility mon on this team anyways. So
exactly, so it doesn't really matter.
For sure.
Um,
also they have probably the best that I've seen so far from these teams. Probably the best Edgequake because we've been talking about Edgequake um, in
Yes.
this. So they probably have the best Edgequake defensive core in Appleton and
Hippowdon.
Hippowdon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It can
although
deal with it very
God,
solidly.
is that 1, 2, 3, 4 months? 5 week to Edgequake.
Yeah,
I think it's covered enough. though.
Yeah,
That's not that
it's
big a
covered
deal.
enough. So
'Cause
if
he's
he
also
didn't
got
have either one of those, like if he only had one of those two, this would have probably been towards the bottom. Gonna be real.
I
Like
I still think it's pretty good. But
it's still good, but I'm saying like if Appleton or Hippowdon was not on this team and he didn't have that as a switch into Edgequake, it would have been a lot lower on the list.
Heracross could be a pseudo switch in, but you don't want your Heracross to be taking a ground type move like that.
no, because
Yeah,
it's already getting shipped with Flame Orb or
Mhm.
exactly.
just rocks in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Anyway, good to move on.
So yeah, I'm more than ready.
Yep.
All right. Next up is Zane. Jesus.
Ha! I'm not the only one.
Oh my
Ha!
god.
Fuck
We
you.
got Fantasy Night of the SoCal Zigzags. One thing that really jumps out to me, first thing about this team, is its defensive core is just disgusting with Mandibuzz, Bronzong, and Clefairy. Like, yuck,
That's probably the best. Gonna be
vomit,
honest. Yeah,
gross.
disgust. Very much.
That's pretty foul.
That is
Yeah,
absolutely
That's
disgusting.
pretty foul. Yeah.
But then
and this
on
team's
the flip
removal.
on the flip side, Mandibuzz is his only good ghost switch in. Otherwise, his team gets shut down by ghosts.
I mean, well, because most ghost types are special, and Hitmonlee is very specially defensive, so it's
It's
not like the
decently
worst.
specially defensive, but
It's
at the
got some
same
pretty good.
time, you don't really want your Hitmonlee to be taking
No,
a Shadow Ball.
no.
You
But
don't
what I
want
was
your
gonna say
mana buds
too
to be
is,
taking a Specs Thunderbolt either. From like
Yeah.
yeah.
monster tier like
Oh,
Bismagius and all that.
Yeah, what I was gonna say too is this team has really. I think this team has some pretty good removal. I mean, like Starmie, Mandibuzz, Venomoth can defog, Flygon can defog, Hitmonlee can rapid spin.
yeah, and
This
this
is
team
probably
this
the
team isn't
best.
even like especially Rocks weak. I don't think.
No, but he's got the best coverage in terms of removal. Let's be
True.
real.
True.
Let's
I think,
like this is probably the best at least so far.
I also
I think
rate.
one thing that's go ahead. Go ahead on.
I was gonna say I rate the Thwacky pick to proc unburden Hitmonlee because Thwacky is
Oh yeah,
allowed Grassy Surge. So the Thwacky into Hitmonlee could be kinda scary because it doesn't have to run the curse set. It could just run banded unburden or not banded. Oh, what am I
Grassy
saying?
Skin Burden.
Yes, Grassy
Aggressive
unburden.
tier. One thing I will say about this team that I'll say this kind of irks me personally. Um, it's a speed tiers itself. Um,
Yes, that's a
I
Mhm.
big
think
thing.
It's crowded.
I think speed tier wise, you're very middling around 100. You have two monsters that are base 100. Then you have Venomoth at 90. Um, Starmie's at 115,
Yeah,
which that jump from
that's
Starmie
fine.
to Raichu to Flygon and Typhlosion aren't terrible.
No,
But
it's
I
not.
just
No,
think having
that's
two base
good.
100s is just not ideal because
Yeah.
that's easy to prep.
Hmm.
I don't think it's as bad just because like it is low tier. So like 115 is like basically the 130 for regular draft, just because it's
Yeah.
really good. I'd
Yeah.
say.
I guess it's not my issue with Starmie in particular. I think it's just like the middling speed with Typhlosion, Venomoth. Just
Yeah.
around that
Yeah.
speed tier, it's just
I
kind of
mean, yeah, and most of the 5 of the Pokemon on this team range from 80 to 100. I mean, you're having half your team range in the same speed tier group.
yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is though too is that either your mon on this team is either gonna run all the speed EVs or no speed EVs. Like either Manabus is not gonna run a lot of these speed EVs or no speed EVs all the time, and then your Flygon and Typhlosion are mostly gonna run max speed most of the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give or take some speed creeps for bulk and whatever else, but yeah, for the
Right.
most part, it's going to be like just about max speed. So you're talking, actually, because I forgot, Mandibuzz is about that speed tier as well. So you're talking 6 Pokemon that are 80 to 100. Um,
And
and
Manabus
then
is base 80, I think.
yeah, it is base 80. So you get Thwacky at 80, Mandibuzz at 80, Hitmonlee at 87, Typhlosion and Flygon at 100, and Venomoth at 90.
Well,
That's not,
one thing to
yeah.
note is like he's got fantastic burst options for speed. Like he's got D-Dance, Flygon,
Hmm.
Scarf Typhlosion. He's got the Unburden Hitmonlee, and he's got
Hmm.
the Grassy Glide Thwacky,
Was
all benefiting from
And
not relying on their speed stats that much.
Right, and
with the
you could even
Scarfs,
argue,
but
yeah, you could argue as well. Quiver-Dance Venomoth is one of the biggest. It's so broken.
it's
Like
very strong.
it's
We might
so
be bumping
good.
it up next season, just because.
I've s- I 6-0'd someone in regular format, not even just regular format, Usum format with Quiver-Dance Venomoth. It was great.
That actually segues us into a good point. Like, this team's setup options are crazy. Quiver-Dance
you
Venomoth,
got
Dragonance Flygon, Curse, Hitmonlee with White Herb,
Yep.
Gross.
You can even put Nasty Plot Raichu in there.
Yeah, Nasty Plot Raichu, Swords
Nasty
Dance,
Plot
Lack.
Mandibuzz.
Even Iron Defense Body Press Bronzong.
Yeah, Nasty Plot Mandibuzz.
You could do setup unaware Clefairy if you want to be brazy.
Yeah.
Yo, Choice Banded Hustle Head Smash Corsola. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but honestly, it's a really, really good team. But once we get into this part, we're splitting hairs for the rest of we've been splitting hairs this whole time, but this is where we really, really start to split hairs.
Like this is like these next few teams are like the upper echelons. Like there are different sections. I would say like these next few teams are like chef's kiss.
The top 5 are just great in general, and this one is one of those top 5. So I think that's a good segue to get into to head into number 4.
Next up, we got the Rocket Sock'em Rotoms, coached by Swaggery. One thing that we were talking about right before this team is like, this is like one of the most buttons teams I could see in low tier. Because like it's got Band Zarude, Band Entei, Specs Manaphy, Specs Rabombi if you want, Specs Magneton, and it also doesn't even require that. Like you could just use Rabombi to facilitate those buttons, Mons. So
I was about to say, literally, just the outlook on this team is okay. Set up webs, set up maybe with Zarude or something like that, or just put choice items on every mon and just sweep. That's the basic plan of this team.
Yeah. The only gripe with this team, and this is what realistically, the only gripe with this team is the fact that his only hazard setter outside of Sticky Webs is going to be Mudsdale with Stealth Rock, and that's also like his realistic only Edgequake switching.
Well, other than Hitmonchan.
Well, Hitmonchan can switch into Stone It, but like Mudsdale switches into very well because of the fact that it's stamina.
I will also say Zarude does have decent bulk, so it can switch in on them and just set up bulk ups. But
I will say this about the team too. I had the same gripe with the last team, but this team is kind of worse in that retrospect. Is that there's still a lot of mons that are milling in the speed tier. You have 105 with Zarude, 2 base 100s in Manaphy and Entei. You have Rodent Fan at 86. You have Kangaskhan at 90. Skunk Tank at like 84, I want to say.
Overall, I'd say it's a pretty fast team. That it's not bad in that sense. Like a team can be fast and not really have to care about speed tiers that much.
I know. I'm not saying it's bad at all. I'm just OCD as hell. So I want like speed tiers to be like nice and cordial.
Yeah.
But this team is great. I know I would love to use this team.
Yeah, it looks like a fun team, but there's also another gripe we didn't really mention up until this point. I'm going to mention it right now. Kangaskhan is their cleric. Now, Kangaskhan is not a bad cleric, but it shouldn't be your only cleric because it's going to want to do other things.
I wouldn't say that that's the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is that this team is going to facilitate fast matches. Either it loses fast or it wins fast.
Yeah, it's a double team.
The bulk,
and that's what we were talking about before.
The bulk consists of Mudsdale, Rodent Fan, Skuntank, and
Kangaskhan.
Yeah, but the thing is too, guys, is that Kang. I bet you 100% that Kang and Hitmonchan most weeks will run AV. Just looking at this team, they're gonna run AV most of the time.
Yep.
If not AV on Kang is going to be especially defensive with like Wish.
Yeah, 100%. It's just that's really the only couple. Like, there's only a few things that's wrong with it. It's the fact that Mudsdale is the only realistic and reliable edgequake switch-in that Kangaskhan or Hitmonchan is going to have to run Assault Vest every week. And that the three offensive threats of this team realistically are all in the same speed tier.
They're similar, yes.
Well, 100 and 105. That is the same speed as far as I'm aware. That's the
Fair enough.
same speed tier.
One thing another thing I will say that's very good for this team is like, um, it's gonna be tough to stall out just because he's got three really good removal options and then Rubombi. He's got Hitmonchan, which always carries spin. He's got jeez, what am I saying? He's got
Tentacruel? What?
Thomas's team, yo. He's got Skuntank, which always carries Defog, very good, and then Rhythm Fan, obviously, to carry Defog. All of which are very good and reliable at getting their job done. So it's hazards aren't going to be too big an issue. Although I do worry that just having the one rocker means that there's not going to be a lot of other ways to pressure switches, and like not a lot of ways to punish switches other than just strong hits.
One thing that's a niche, but I actually really like about this team is that its two electric types aren't weak to the same things, and they resist each other's like weaknesses.
Yep.
I really enjoy that. Other than like fire, obviously, because fire's neutral. But like Ronan Fan's not weak to ground. Bit Magneton is weak to ground. They can switch out and do that thing. Ronan Fan's weak to ice. Magneton's not weak to ice, so they can switch out do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I honestly like that aspect, and then it also brings a like a more offensive electric, more to like a utility electric. So I actually really like that about this team. And then just Rabambi, I mean, what can I say more about Rabambi? I've used it so many times in draft now. I've used it like at least like 3 to 4 times in draft, and every time I've used it, I've had a really good season. It's just a really, really good mon at what it does. And even offensively as a specs mon on this team, you could still do major damage with it.
Yeah. Overall, though, very fast games. It's gonna sting to try and switch into this stuff. Anyway, ready for the next one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's go. Got Akala Araquanids, coached by Thief of Cats. On paper, looking at this first glance, team is phenomenal. Like it's got really strong offense, pretty good defense, screen support for that offense. But however, if you dig a little bit deeper, their edge quake switching is Hitmontop. And
Zydog, but
it does not want to take an earthquake.
it doesn't want to take that. Like we talked about this earlier beforehand. And we were talking about like I brought up, for example, like say like the trick room team that we looked at earlier set up a trick room with Rhyperior. Rhyperior ran through this team.
Yeah. Yep.
Like all he needs to do is just run 3 attacks Swords Dance and it would obliterate this team. But the good thing about this team is that it's not going to allow those Trick Room mons to set up Trick Room easily with Grimmsnarl being there. Grimmsnarl is going to be a really integral part of this team.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the glue that holds it together. Because Grimmsnarl is able to set up screens for both Metagross and Zydog, and more or less for also for Minior to set up Smash, which is going to be very strong, very hard to deal with for a lot of teams.
Even Orbital. Orbital can run weakness policy store power with weakness policy store power with agility.
Yeah.
Even that. I think another thing is that if they didn't have Grimmsnarl on their team would be really, really Ghost weak.
Yes.
Their team would be super, super Ghost weak.
It is very pressured to carry Grimmsnarl every time they see a ghost.
Yeah.
So it's because they do not have any resists or a normal type other than Grimmsnarl, which could be kind of worrisome just because they've got 3 weak, and the rest neutral.
Even a dark type of coverage would do really well against this team, like a Mega Houndoom or something.
No, Mega Houndoom tears this team a new one.
Yeah,
It's
Mega Houndoom, or just even regular Houndoom.
I know it wasn't drafted, but still, it's surprisingly it went undrafted, but
That's crazy.
yeah, very like it's just on paper very very strong team. Cores
Also,
are all there.
love the Hitmontop on this team as well. I
Yeah,
think Hitmontop
Mhm.
is really, really good.
yep.
Um,
It fits. I personally really like it with Jellison, just in general. Like I think it's a very strong defensive backbone for this team.
I think one issue for this team, in my opinion, is pivoting options as well, because your only pivoter is Orbital
Yeah,
and Magmar with teleport.
yeah.
So you're gonna run into issues.
A
You're gonna run
lot
into
of hard
issues with
switching.
that whenever you're gonna want to, you got to make hard switches, which means you got to predict a little bit more. Um, but yeah, that's another gripe.
Yep. Grimsnarl does kind of help with that just because of the screens, but it I feel like it's very forced to run screens a lot of the time.
Yeah, I feel like it's more in that supportive role rather than it could kind of be, you know, it could kind of spread its wings and maybe even be like an offensive set that week or something like that. I feel like it's very niche into its light clay screens role.
Yep, yep. But on paper, phenomenal team. Frickin' Arctiv Arctizolt, 18 points are banned. Honestly, Broken Mon makes the team
Hmm,
whole.
facts.
Um, they're just gonna win because Arctizolt, obviously. All right.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Picton Piplups, our reigning champion for Roost, coached by Kumos.
Yes, sir.
So
Um,
one thing about his team is it is, I would say, probably the strongest defensive core that we've seen so far.
I mean,
I'd even say in this division, period. Because
well, it just
between
synergizes so well together, right?
yep, yep,
It just
it's got
synergizes
a
so well together.
Slow King, Gligar, both weak to knock. You got Umbreon and Klefki. Um, these three don't really like taking ground type moves. You got Gligar. The Gligar's got U-turn. Slowking got teleport, and heck, Umbreon even has slow baton pass if you wanted to run something like that. Um, and it's all to facilitate and get get going the Breloom, Mega Hound or Mega Metric and Emor. So it's
I think one thing that I will say about this is that one issue that I do see is again a flying type weakness.
yeah,
Um, like Klefki doesn't have reliable recovery, which kind of makes that harder to deal with. But you do have Gligar, which can help with that, and um, you know,
I
you could run physically defensive Slowking. Slowking is bulky, and then also, but you don't want Mega Man to take that hit.
yeah.
Um,
I'd also
mhm.
say like a special hurricane. Cryogonal
like
could
a
take on
Torn,
pretty well.
like a Torn. Torn would be an issue for his team with plot.
Oh yeah, hundred
Torn
percent.
with superpower would tear this team apart. I will say that, and
Yeah,
you can kind of see at the bottom spoilers of how that went.
yeah.
Unfortunate, Thomas. Unfortunate. You kind of got robbed, but
I
ugh.
think I think
Anyway,
I think I love the defensive core. Like
yes,
defensively, this is probably
Yeah,
I mean you can't
I'd
say
say it's the
words.
best. I'd say it's the best defensively.
You can't say
one of,
words.
if not.
No.
You can't say words. The only the only gripe I would have is not enough breakers.
Well,
I
I kind of just feel like Breloom plus Emboar is a bit awkward because they're both fighting types.
Yeah,
right.
So
yeah.
maybe
That's what I mean. Like maybe like an intermediate breaker. Like Breloom is your like fighting type, like physical attacker breaker, like Mega Manetrix your special. Maybe something that could change the pace a little bit, possibly be physical or special, I think would maybe fit this team a little bit better.
Yeah, like a mixed breaker. I'm not sure what they would have there, but
I'm not too sure either.
I mean, to be honest, like they do, like Embor and Breloom can have different roles, but I do feel like it's a bit awkward to have both of them just sitting there as the fighting types. Well,
Yeah.
Breloom can be like a fat, stalwart tank with a toxic orb set, but it's just kind of awkward because it contributes heavily to the flying pieces of this team. Like if we got
Yeah.
like a pure grass, like an offensive pure grass or something like that, I think it'd be pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Also has webs options with Charge Bug, which can be devastating with Embor
Yeah,
and Breloom.
I really like the fact that this team can either be Trick Room or Webb's offense, because most of the offense is going to be ran through Breloom and Embor, realistically.
That too,
Yes,
because he has
Most
also
of the time, if you get an SD up with Breloom or you get, behind a sub with Breloom, it's almost over most of the time.
yeah, especially in the low tier format, and having the option to do Trick Room or Webb's, or I believe Tailwind is also an option. I think Klefki gets Tailwind or something. I
I
feel like
don't think so. I think Gligar might.
Gligar might, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Gligar might.
But
Pivoting this
still,
team is a nightmare to also to deal with, especially just
yeah,
because like
because he's got
it
what
has good ways to
2 U.
get in its threats. It's
Yeah,
got it's got teleport Slowking into Embor,
he's got
fast full
2 U
switch.
turners.
So it's
Um,
this team is going to be a menace.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Yeah.
I have a strong feeling Kumas is going to keep this championship title with a team like this.
I think you can. I think I would want more flexibility as well with hazards, but to be honest with you, Gligar and Klefki are so reliable at just setting those hazards, and I don't see it being such a big issue.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Um, I think his hazard setters coupled with his momentum, I think it's just going to be a very hard time for most teams to handle and most players to handle.
Yeah,
Um,
because Hazard game is really good, puts pressure on, especially with one big angry pig boy staring you down. Not gonna be very easy to deal with. So up next we going into
the
the
number one.
last team, number one, with the Winnipeg Wingulls, coached by Steering. This team has everything. It's got
Yeah,
bulk. It's got momentum. It's got offense. It's got hazards. It's just
got great removal. I mean,
very
this
well.
team's
Hazards being
great.
like Spikes or Ninja, Rocks,
He's
Reggie Steel.
This wasn't
easy.
mentioned either, but priority on this team is Nutty as well.
Yep.
Mhm.
Water
With
Shuriken Gwen,
Water
Sneak.
Shuriken, Accel Rock, Sneak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good team. I mean, this team is nuts. Because him and I, we were talking, and he was thinking his team was gonna kind of fit somewhere in like it was gonna fit in the top five, but it was gonna fit in the top five. Um, but looking at it more closely,
I'd say
it's
this
still
team
really
takes it
close.
away.
But
He's
also, the
got
logo is absolutely flames. Just
yeah.
gonna put it there.
One of the fattest wishers available in low tier,
Mm-hmm.
paired with one of the fattest, no, the fattest steel available,
Yup.
is going to be nasty,
Yup.
disgusting. Also, Gorgod, let's go.
Gorgod and Quagdad.
Stop,
I think
stop. No.
Nasty Pot Crobat's going to be nasty on this team as well. They choose to
Oh
bring
yeah.
it offensively
Got
with this sort of team, especially being at 130 speed. Not a lot of mons can even hit that speed on people's teams, so it'll be able
Right.
to probably run modest some weeks
either
as
Oh yeah.
well.
monster could feasibly run band. Like the
Yeah,
Crobat can run offensively a lot because Greninja, like a lot of teams might just compensate for Greninja just because.
Greninja or Blaziken, because Bandit Blaziken or Choice Guard Blaziken's also a fiend too. Now that it gets U-turn.
Yeah,
Yeah. And close combat as well, being a
I'm
thing on it.
definitely in love with
Um,
this team. Very
it's a
strong.
great team,
One
100%.
thing, I think I think you'll kind of be tied down with Crobat though at some point in time because you do want it to be your fighting resist. Some weeks for this team as well as its defogger, so you might want to use it a little bit more utility because sometimes you won't want Mr. Rhyme or Morpeko to be those mons to be those hazard removal because what if you run into a ghost type or something like that?
Mm.
One week and you can't rapid spin those hazards away. So I think that
Yeah.
default Crobat will be more than likely used a lot.
Yep.
Well, let's see. I think there's only one. I'm looking at the other teams right now. So far, I think there's only like one or two ghost types that got drafted. Like only a few of them that got drafted.
I know there was one
Um,
with this Miss Magius that I
like
saw that we
Miss
saw.
Magius, Rune, Jellicent,
Blade.
Deblade, and Driftblim is really the ones that got drafted. So it's the chances of him seeing him in every week is like 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
But
So I would
still,
say like
it
the
could be an
spins are
issue.
pretty reliable because the team
The
doesn't.
Yeah.
spins, yeah, the ones that have the spin are reliable spinners, and the ones that have, I mean, okay,
The one that has defog
Blaziken,
is probably one of the better defoggers available.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then Blaziken, it has defog. It's probably not going to run defog for the most part, but
Still nice, still a good option to have.
exactly, like it's like a break glass in case of emergency.
This team is fast as hell.
Yeah.
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 It goes from like 130 to 120, 122 to 112
Mm-hmm. And then down
to
to 90 for Morpeko.
Yeah.
no 97.
Isn't it? I know it's
Is
kind
it?
of
Let me
fast.
check.
I think Gorgai's maybe faster. I think Gorgai's like
Uh,
99 or something like that.
Depending on the
If it's running
form.
small.
Yeah, it depends on the form. It depends on the form. Yeah.
Morpeko is 97. You're right. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes essentially from 97 down to
Blaziken.
Blaziken at 80.
And
Which is
then
a
just
little.
speed goes to Hog
That's
Rush.
that's a little but
I think it's fine.
Outside
honestly.
of that, like the team like just swallows hits for days. Other than that, like
Yeah.
the speed is kind of negligible when you have the cool
Registeel,
Regisauce.
Aromatisse. Yeah,
Registeel.
Registeel, Aromatisse, Quag, and Gorgai.
Okay.
It's just nasty.
Quick side note though, Registeel is banned with body press. That's
Okay. Yeah.
that's one of the big contingencies with
Which is
drafting.
fair.
Another thing is too that I really do like is that Rhyme is really underrated because with a rapid spin up, we saw a lot of teams be freeze dry weak. It gets access to nasty plot. So it could be that nasty plot
Mm-hmm.
freeze dry mon. So it could be I would say Mr. Ryan would be a sleeper pick for this team.
Yeah, and it's also cool to know because of Screen Cleaner, you can't really deal with this team very well with screens because it switches in and screens are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a lot harder to defensively check if you can't use screens. So yeah, very good
And
team.
also with Infiltrator Crobat too, screens don't mean a thing.
Yup, yup. Overall, yeah, those are going to be the Sharp Beak Power Ranking. Or Jesus, not Sharp Beak.
Beak. That's my division. What?
That is your division, which should be coming up soon, hopefully.
Next couple days, probably.
Hopefully, yes. But yes, it has been Honch, Rose, and Primal. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the Roost. Good luck to all the teams. May the hacks be with you always.
Good luck, guys.
Have a great day. Thank you for watching.
Have a good night, you guys.
Bye.
Good night, guys.